Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Installment of Scott Selections here for Wednesday, October 19th. Before getting today's play of the day, quick recap of what happened yesterday. We had a push in hockey with the Ducks and Devils over 6 and minus 110 on DraftKings. Line closed at 6.5, so we ended up beating a line move. And unfortunately, in the past, I have mentioned the difference between push wins and push losses. Quickly, push wins are definitely games you had no chance of even getting your money back for, and you somehow found a way. And push losses are games which you probably deserve to win, but ended up having to settle for a push. That was definitely a push loss. There were a ton of scoring chances in the entire game. I believe 4 posts were hit. Both teams went 0 for 7 combined on the power play. A couple of breakaways that didn't go in. A lot of really good chances the entire game, and yet it still ended up landing 6. So better than a loss. Look for a winner here on Wednesday. And for today's play of the day, time to pivot to the NBA, looking at a matchup between the Rockets and the Hawks taking place at around 7:40 p.m. Eastern Time. And for this matchup, we like a total in this one. We like the first half over 118.5 at minus 120 on BetMGM. Time recording of 2 a.m. Eastern Time. Cover reasons why I like the first half over in this matchup. First reason, actually go through the stats last year. Both teams were really not good defensively at all. Last season, Houston was dead last in defense efficiency, while Atlanta ranked 26th. Plus, Houston also played very up tempo as the Rockets ranked number 2 in pace, and they have a very similar roster to last year. Still have Jalen Green. They just paid Porter a bunch of money, so he's still the point guard. They still have Eric Gordon. They did draft Jabari Smith, who is definitely young and doesn't mind running, and they also have Şengün at the center, who is definitely a smaller center, but they could still definitely play up tempo. And I expect them to stick with whatever they were doing last year, which should result in a lot of quick shots and a lot of really awful transition defense, which should allow both teams to score a lot of points early on in this game. Now, to go through the actual first half numbers defensively, both teams were also really not good last year. Houston allowed 60.8 points per game in the first half, which was the most in the league. And Atlanta allowed 57.1 points per game in the first half, which ranked 19th. So the point is, Atlanta was a bad first half defensive team. Houston was the worst in the entire league. So I do think you'll end up seeing both teams really just get off to huge scoring performances early on. And I know it's pretty difficult or pretty annoying to fully react to preseason, but since both teams are going to be using the actual starters for at least the first quarter of that game most of the time, I'll go through some preseason trends, and both teams did have pretty high scoring first halves in the preseason. Each of Houston's last 3 preseason games had at least 121 points in the first half, and 3 of Atlanta's 4 preseason games had at least 118 points in the first half. But we know Trae Young is not afraid of definitely going up tempo and taking advantage of a defense that might be a little bit behind in transition. And I do think you'll end up seeing him and Murray try to take advantage of a lackluster transition defense that Houston has en route to a lot of quick possessions. But I really don't see either team wanting to slow the pace of this game. Atlanta has much more offensive talent. I think they'll be willing to run with Houston. And Houston wants to run because that's all they did last year. So with a young roster going up against the likes of Trae Young and DeJounte Murray and John Collins and a lot of other weapons, I do think both defenses will pretty much take the night off for at least the first 24 minutes. The reason why I'm not taking the full game is that I was kind of keeping an eye on Houston in the second half of the preseason games, and it seemed like the second halves were really slowing down. It seemed like Houston really tried to make some halftime adjustments defensively, and they ended up doing so. But offensively, they are really good in the first half. Defensively, they don't care. And I think you'll end up seeing a very high score game as a result. I think there's several ways you can cash this. Can I see each team reaching 60 in the first half? I can. Can I see Atlanta scoring 70 plus at home in the first half against the worst defense in the league? That I can too. So I think you'll end up seeing one of these teams get to maybe 65 or 70, which should give us a very nice shot at cashing this over. But I think this number is too low, especially going through the head to head meetings, because each of the last 6 meetings have had at least 126 points in the first half. So when these teams get together, you see fireworks early and often, and I think that'll be the case once again here on Wednesdays. Play that once again here for Wednesday, October 19th is going to be on the Rockets and Hawks first half over 118.5 at minus 120 on BetMGM. Bye, everyone.